Hey everybody, welcome into Warp Factor 10, our show about all things Star Trek here on the Arena Productions. I'm your host, Expat, along with my co-host, Burley, who joins me on the bridge again as we're going to discuss Star Trek Strange New World Season 2, Episode 3, titled Tomorrow and Tomorrow and Tomorrow. So how you doing, Burley?
I'm doing good. How are you, expat?
I'm doing good. So I'm ready to talk about Episode 3, so let's go ahead and jump into it. So obviously, La'an, Chief of Security on the Enterprise, obviously she's dealing with transporter room issues. She's dealing with Spock playing his music too loud and some anonymous complaint about that. And then, of course, Pelia with her archaeological, relics spread all over the floor and everything. So, yeah, what did you think of the beginning of the episode here?
I thought it was good. It was just your standard, let's focus on one crew member going around doing their job and
Right.
going into different sections and showing you pretty much what a typical day is.
Yeah. So before we move on, I just want to say there are going to be spoilers throughout this episode. So if you have not watched the episode yet, please go to Paramount Plus and watch the episode and then come back and enjoy this recap episode here on the Arena Productions, because we will be talking spoilers throughout this episode. So that's your spoiler warning. So let's go ahead and move on, Burley. So obviously, yeah, she's dealing with all this, but then we get the situation with the time traveler that's in, of course, the corridor of the ship, and he's got a bullet wound. It's not a phaser wound, it's a bullet wound. And then he gives her this of course time travel device and says, you need to get to the bridge. And so she goes to the bridge, and who does she see? She sees Kirk, but a different Kirk. Yeah. What'd you think of this? I was a little surprised here, to see Kirk as captain again. And obviously he's got like a different comm badge on. And so, yeah, I mean, this is an alternate reality here that we're in. So it's not the Federation. It looks like the Vulcans are about to lose their war with the Romulans. And Earth is like a completely different type of Earth. It's like the atmosphere is complete ash, and everybody pretty much lives underground. So but I mean, this communication here, the conversation in Kirk's quarters here. What did you think of that?
I like this. Like it did surprise me. Just you jump from the guy with a bullet wound. She just jumps right there on his ship, and he's like, "Ma'am, how did you get on my ship?"
Yeah, yeah,
And then she sings Spock and Kirk and Spock going back and forth, and her trying to get him, be like, we need to speak in private,
right,
all this and that, and then her going to his quarters, and then them just talking it out.
yeah. Yeah, it's a completely different Spock too. I mean, it's like an alternate timeline. It seems like here. So, yeah, and Kirk's like telling her, "Give me the device," and then she doesn't want to give him the device, and then obviously she pushes the button as he's trying to take it away from her, and then they end up in 21st century Toronto, Burley.
Yep.
So what I'm sure you have some things to say about this, being from close to Toronto. So
Yep.
take it away, man.
Yeah. So that they do land in Toronto. This is around near Square One in Toronto. I've actually been in this area several times.
Mm-hmm.
It's a very nice area of Toronto.
Okay, yeah. It's like it was interesting.
Big,
Kirk was saying in the scene there, it's like this looks like New York City, but Lawns. No, this is Toronto. Yeah.
Yeah, and they show you the CF Toronto and all that sign and all that. It's like, yep, this is Toronto. If you've ever been, you cannot mistake it. And they give you shots. They show you the CN Tower in the background and stuff in the shots. So it's like, as someone that's been to Toronto enough times, they're like, oh, I recognize that. I recognize that. I recognize that.
Right.
Because everyone else is like, okay, whatever.
Yeah. And so it's interesting as the episode, progresses, you see the chemistry, forming between this version of Kirk and La'an. It's funny, they're in the clothing store here, and I loved how La'an, she like takes look like some type of a wallet or something, and secretly just dumps it in some customer's bag as she's leaving, and then the security alarm goes off, and then that's how they're able to get out with the clothes without having to pay anything, because of course they don't have any currency from the 21st century. Yeah. So
Yeah.
I thought that was pretty interesting, you
Yeah.
know. And then we go on, and then they have to figure out basically how are we going to make money. We got to have money. We got to do something. And then of course Kirk sees the chessboard here, and he goes up and he just starts racking up cash, winning these chess games. And it's interesting how later on he's like saying to Lon, it's like the two-dimensional chess, that's idiot's chess.
Yeah.
Because he's used to like the three-dimensional chessboards that they have on the Enterprise, and he's talking about how he would always be beating his number one. Yeah.
I did like this because it was like, okay, how are they going to get money? How are we going to explain that? Okay,
Yeah.
he sees the chessboard and he's like, hold on, I know how to do this.
Yeah.
And then they just beats like, I don't know, what was it, like 10 to 15 different people they show.
Right. Yeah, just racking up the money. Yeah. So yeah, it was pretty cool. So yeah, so they get the money, and obviously he buys some hot dogs, and they're still trying to figure out what's going on. And then of course they get into the hotel, and La'an, she can't sleep, and she goes and she looks at Kirk, so you see that the chemistry, the heating up here, as the episode progresses and all. But then we get the explosion at the bridge, and that's what the time traveler on the Enterprise was referring to in the beginning, get to the bridge. And so that is the bridge that he was of course referring to in Toronto. And from what they're saying, as they're in this hotel room right before the explosion, they're talking about their timelines. And La'an is saying that in the Federation, obviously all these worlds, they work together and all, and where it's kind of like a utopia, whereas Kirk's timeline is just just war, and everything is in chaos. And then of course they bring up the the fact that there is another Kirk in La'an's timeline, and and his brother Sam, Sam is alive, and all. And then of course the explosion. And so what did you think of this part here?
I thought it was good. Just them, they see something with the bridge blowing up in the rubble, but they can't really fully tell. So you see the one girl taking photos, and so they like go up, see the camera. I love it. They're like doing enhance. She like, you mean zoom? Yeah.
Zoom in.
Because they don't know the lingo of that generation. So it's just funny just to see them trying to interact, and then she sees it, and then she's like, what? Oh, nothing. And then she and Kirk walk off, and then they're like, okay. And Kirk's like, yeah, it's gonna be too hard to get to it on foot, so we need a car. And she's like,
Yeah.
Do you even know how to? You don't just have easy access. He's like, don't worry, I know how to hotwire.
Yeah, well, he goes up, and then the owner of the car, he gives him a Vulcan neck pinch, and he's like, I learned that from my cellmate when I was in this prison for like 6 months or something like that. So yeah, I mean, he's driving the car, he's and and then they start mentioning the fact that Kirk's middle name is Tiberius, and like La'an was ripping on that, and it's like, so what is your brother is like Octavius something, blah blah blah. And then of course like he's saying, well, your name, La'an Noonien Sung. And she's like, it's Sing, so so yeah, I mean the chemistry was cool between them, especially in the car there, and the racing, and the music was cool that they had in the background music as well. And then of course the Toronto police, Burley, I'm sure you're quite familiar with that and them. So.
I haven't had to deal with police in Toronto. They never caught me.
Okay.
Never will.
All right. So anyway, they get busted, but then of course the photographer, she starts coming up and she starts popping out the cell phone and saying this is being recorded live and everything, and something about him being like a famous politician or something. I don't remember if it was a politician or whatever, but they just give in, the police, and let him go. And so and then she starts showing them photos here in the cafe. And one of the photos here that I'm going to bring up, yeah, this one, of course. And Kirk was looking at this one because that is a Romulan ship. That obviously, as we progress in this episode, we're going to figure out what the Romulans are really trying to do. But anyway, I mean, we get this, image of the Romulan ship along with the other images there, and that's what stood out to Kirk, obviously. So, yeah. So yeah, they're trying to figure out, how to get to the place where the terrorist supposedly is, and what they're plotting to do next, and like the type of bomb or whatever. And she remembers that Palia, of course, has like this little archaeological dig in Vermont. And of course, Vermont is close by, so they go and they visit Palia. It's funny. It's funny how she just basically says to her, "Hey, I know who you are, and I know your secret." So, what did you think of the encounter with Palia here in Vermont?
I love that because they're trying, like, they don't want to fully tell her everything, but they're trying to be like, we know your secret. And like I love it. She's like, how did you find this place? I don't really advertise and all this and that. I love the back and forth between them.
Yeah,
Really
I love
good.
the part, and I love the part where like Lon's like, but you're an engineer, and she's like, I'm not an engineer. I'm just I work retail. But then it's like later on, it's like basically Lon's the one that talks her into becoming an engineer. So yeah, she's like, maybe I just found my calling. So yeah, yeah, it was cool. And then of course, getting the watch and all to be able to create like a compass in a sense to be able to find out where this place is. And then of course Kirk and Lon's chemistry, and the bond that has formed between them and all. And yeah, it started to get intimate here.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Which I believe if we did, it was in one of the first or second trailer of the actual season. We got little snippets of that. So
right. And so we get to the Noonien Singh Institute for Cultural Advancement. So obviously this is the place that they were, that they had to find, and surprise, surprise, obviously. And yeah, it's like we get, and in the next image that we're going to see here, obviously the girl with the camera, obviously she is a disguised Romulan from the 23rd century, and she is there to kill Khan Noonien Singh. So basically,
dun, dun, dun.
yeah, bum, bum, bum. I mean, the reasoning, well, because the Romulans, they don't want the eugenics war to happen, obviously, because the eugenics war is what, of course, causes humanity to change, and brings about the Federation later on. And obviously Kirk, from this alternate timeline, he dares the Romulan to shoot because it'll sound off the alarm. And what does she do? She shoots him, and he dies in Laon's arms. What'd you think of this part?
I was actually surprised she shot him. That'll be honest. Like, you see Kirk trying everything he can, using his brain, using his tongue to just get out of the situation, and make the situation his that he can win.
Yeah.
But unfortunately, he does win technically, but he also takes a bullet.
Yep. And then we see the strength of the Romulan here, just basically lifts up La'an by the throat, basically, and just throws her in, through the door and everything, and takes her down the corridor there to get to obviously where Khan's room is. Yeah. So Khan is still a child at this point, obviously. So, there's the struggle between the two because obviously, La'an doesn't want her to kill the boy, so, they end up struggling, and La'an's able to get the gun and to shoot the Romulan, and then she just basically, and as we'll see, I think in an image here, she just poof, she just disappears.
Yeah.
So, yeah, there you go. So, yeah, so she basically, saves Khan and saves the timeline, and so Khan continues to exist. So La'an is basically, in a sense, puzzled. For, I mean, he's going to grow up to be a mass murderer, basically, and I saved him. But then again, he's part of my ancestry. So, your thoughts? Yeah.
Yeah, well, I thought that was interesting. Like, she has the whole speech going back and forth with her, being like, "Yeah, this guy is a murderer, but if I don't do this, I cease to exist. He is my history."
Yeah, and I like how she said to him, "You're exactly where you need to be, at this point, to Khan." Yeah, so yeah. But I was waiting. It didn't happen, obviously, but I was waiting for Khan to just, come out like in a cutscene or something. This is City Alpha 5. Obviously, that wasn't going to happen, but
yeah. And maybe on the Blu-ray set they'll do an outtake of that.
Yeah, or something like that. Yeah. So anyway, of course, La'an, of course, she pushes the button and gets back to her own timeline, everything, and so she gets back to the bridge here, where Pike is surprised that she's out of uniform, and obviously they're interrogating Palia about her archaeological, trinkets spread all over the place, and La'an's, basically just, I think we should let this slide. After everything she did for me, like in the 21st century, I think we should let that slide. Obviously, she doesn't say that, but yeah. So so I thought that was pretty cool. And then of course we get to the end of the episode here. This is the image of her still on the bridge, but she's gonna get this visitor here, from the temporal investigative agency or whatever. From the future. Obviously, they don't exist in, La'an's timeline or in her time. Obviously, this is probably even past Picard's time, probably way, way into the future. But she's basically like, the guy that was on the, in the corridor at the beginning of the episode, he was one of ours. And thank you so much for, completing his mission. But you can't say anything about this to anyone, even Captain Pike, and please return our equipment to us. And she does, and then she disappears.
Yeah, I wonder if they're going to make a return later in this season.
I don't know. Well, that's interesting because, as obviously she looks at the timeline to make sure everything is repaired, I guess, here in this scene. And then, of course, La'an talks to, of course, her timeline's Kirk, and, she has to, come up with some excuse as to why to talk to him and all, and, he's like, hey, buy me a drink the next time we're at a starbase, and I'll give you all the, the inside scoops on my brother and everything. And then obviously she breaks down into tears because of the fact that, the other timeline Kirk is dead, and she really had feelings for him and all. Yeah. But, the last image I'm going to show here it is. So you get the watch and it's sitting there. And I'm just thinking, like you were just mentioning earlier, are we going to see the temporal investigators later in the season? could this watch end up with Palea again? I'm wondering, Palea is going to find this watch at some point, and she's going to know because that's the watch that she gave her, and is there going to be something else to this? I don't know. What do you think, Burley?
I was thinking the exact same thing because I'm like, you put the focus at the end on this watch with this shot here, and it's like, I don't think they're just gonna leave it here and just be like, it's a one and done thing. It's gone. We're not gonna go back to this. I think they're gonna call back to this probably way later in the season.
Yeah, because I'm sure Paley is going to find this watch at some point, and then something's gonna come from that. But let us know in the comments what you think about this watch and what might happen in a future episode, and let us know your thoughts about the episode in general. So, Burley, before we end the episode, what are your final thoughts about episode 3, tomorrow and tomorrow and tomorrow?
It's a really good episode. Highly recommend. If you got to rate it out of 10, I would say an 8 out of 10 for me.
Yeah, me too. Yeah, I was gonna say 8. Yeah, I enjoyed it. I didn't enjoy it as much as episode 2, but yeah. I thought it was interesting. The alternate Kirk and on the chemistry there. I thought it was fun. I thought it was fun to go back to like the 21st century. Obviously, Toronto. Kind of gave me vibes of Star Trek 4, of course, when Kirk and Spock were walking around in San Francisco. So yeah, I really enjoyed it. And I mean, some questions unanswered at the end there, especially with the watch. I mean, could that show up again in a future episode? Could it end up with Palea again? Who knows? We shall see. And obviously, the Romulans are still trying to manipulate the past, I would think. So, maybe this situation has not been concluded yet. We shall see. But I really liked the episode. It was a great episode, and we're looking forward to the next episode. Obviously, episode 4, which will be called "Among the Lotus Eaters." So episode 4 coming up, and obviously we will be doing our recap of that episode next week for you here on the Arena Productions on Warp Factor 10, our show about all things Star Trek. So I've been your host, Expat, along with my co-host, Burley. So here on the bridge, we hope to catch you in the next one. So take care, everyone. Live long and prosper.
Take care, everyone.